This version of Joe Exotic's Here Kitty Kitty by The Offspring is wicked. Way better than it ever should be. Alright, enough of that. We're going to stop listening to deadly music because it's time for episode 29 of Liam Small Abridges, A History of Newfoundland by D.W. Prowse, 15 to 20 pages at a time every day until the bars reopen, or every other day depending on how I'm feeling that day. Coming to you at 2 in the morning right now, so forgive me if this one comes a little bit late or tomorrow. I have been having issues with uploading, as I mentioned. I'm going to try a different format this time because I just so boring. I just thought I would just take all my notes in the book as opposed to look at the screen. So let's see how that goes. I'll watch it back after and find out if it's the best way to go. But there's only like 3 or maybe 4 more episodes left, guys. Maybe a couple bonus episodes after that. But toaster! Yeah, fucking cat's tearing up the couch over there. Anyway, without any further ado, Black horse here, guys. You can make yourself a black horse quite easily by going to the corner store, buying some black horse, and pouring it into your favorite mug. This one's mine. Shout out to Saucy Pots for their awesome work. Alright, enough jibber-jabber, and it was just an excuse for me to finish that joint. Okay, last going off, we were talking about Sir Frederick got in government. Anyway, I'm not going to delay on that anymore. Okay, so the first thing that we get into is political movement, the Confederation of British North America. So that's what we ended on. So the great political movement of the time was the Confederation of British North America. To complete the union, our island was necessarily included in the scheme. Sir Frederick and Sir Ambrose Shea were sent as our delegates to the Great Confederation Conference and returned with a draft. That's what we ended on yesterday, the day before, episode 28. Okay, so the guys came back from the mainland with proposals for the Dominion of Canada. The proposals to unite our destinies with Canada were not received with enthusiasm. We were not exactly very stoked on that. The main question was one of the terms, what would Canada give us in return for surrendering our independence? Basically, like, well, what's in it for us? I mean, I guess I didn't go over that well. We didn't join Canada for another, 100 years or so, but so that was, at the time, we're like, well, we're already killing it, so what do you guys have that you could give us? The anti-Confederate Party was strong in numbers, powerful in organization, and their leader, Mr. Charles Fox Bennett, showed himself a most able and indefatigable political campaigner. Wow, indefatigable. Word of the day. The awful tales that were told about the taxation, about ramming the newborn babes down Canadian cannon, bleaching. Listen, there were some analogies he made in here that, when I read last night, half-cut, made no sense to me. Like the ramming of newborn babes down the Canadian cannon, bleaching their bones on the desert sands of Canada had a tremendous effect on the simple out harbor people. Didn't really understand that one. That one didn't land. Okay, so there still lingers amongst them a traditionary remembrance of the suffering their forefathers endured from the French Canadian and their Aboriginal partners. Remember, they were quite murderous, the French, and all that. So there's a bit of that lingering anti-Canadian sentiment because that's where a lot of the French and those tribes were. So yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, that makes up for the part of their dread of joining Canada. He said dread in the book. Confederation has never been put forward before the country as a practical political question up until that day. Up until this time, joining Canada was never in the books. Our home colony, part of Britain. Since the death... Okay, so moving on. Since the death of the great Sir John A. Macdonald, there is no statesman in Canada strong enough to guarantee us such terms that we would accept. Good luck. You'd have to be like the best in the biz, is what they're saying. So there's also great drawbacks in Canada's protectionist tariff. The Dominion is a fish... our Dominion, is a fish producer and not a fish consumer. We did, but... our business relations and our future market lie with the United States way more than do with Canada. The customers and consumers of our inexhaustible fisheries, flash forward to 1992, John Cosby, what do you got? Inexhaustible, my ass. Our inexhaustible fisheries are the 63 million Americans. And that number, to me, I was like, there's 63 Americans and 18 fucking 69? Like, That's 63 million. That seems, I don't know, does that seem crazy to anybody else? It seems like a lot to me. Like, Canada has 30 now. All right, moving on. 63 million, really? Okay, 1867 is noted as the year of the Great Fishery and the Great Labrador Gale. One good thing, one bad thing. So the fishery kicked ass. We had a series of years around this time. Things were actually going pretty good for the island. We were doing okay until we get to 1892. But we're actually in a pretty good spot right now. The island is doing well. We've developed the fishery now with the introduction of steam. Stuff like that. So there's a lot more coming and going. You're able to get more stuff out to your buyers. So great, I'm sure the West fucking Devonshire merchants are still being dicks, but that's just who they are. I mean, a skeet's gonna be a skeet. You knows it. So they're just gonna keep... Anyway, moving on. In 1867 is known as the year of the Great Fishery. Okay, so the destruction of the Labrador Gale, the destruction of boats, shipping, and stages was enormous. The large firms had most of their losses covered by insurance, but the poor settlers and the small planters got a bit fucked over. Classic. It was a terrible calamity. In 1868, a vigorous effort was made by the Carter government to suppress able-bodied poor relief. It was a bold move, and all the best men in the party supported the measure. It was preeminently successful. So this is like a social program to keep them going. Sir Frederick's administration, I guess he's the governor now. I couldn't tell you in any year who's in charge until they keep saying it in the book. So Frederick's administration, all his party were overthrown in 1869, and Mr. Bennett formed an administration, which in its turn was again defeated in 1873. See, we just blew through like 2 more fucking governors. Through the defection of 3 of its supporters, Mr. Bennett's tenure of office corresponded with blah, 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 blah. The Bennett government was a most able and progressive administration. The premier had always been an indefatigable... Man, he loves the word indefatigable. Is that only for politicians? I don't know. But indefatigable promoter of roads, so big roads guy. The present efficient police is due to Mr. Bennett's statesman-like sagacity. During his tenure in office, there were successful fisheries, good harvests, and general prosperity. The revenue rose in 1871 to $831,160. I guess that's great. The mining industry was to increase as well. Large expenditure of wages in Green Bay to copper workers added largely to the resources of our working population and helped to fuse the general prosperity throughout the colony. So it's great, But what you see here a little bit is the color is going all wonky. What you're seeing is people being supported from the bottom and it helping everybody. Not giving money to the guy who owns the mine and says, I'll make sure they get it. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, so the most exciting subject in 18... I can only imagine when D.W. Prowse says the most exciting subject, it's going to be bland as all fucking give. The most exciting subject in 1872, 1873, next to the all-absorbing question of Confederation, was the right of our government under the Charter to preempt the New York, Newfoundland, and London Telegraph Company's rights and plant. I knew it wasn't going to be exciting. This is the right to charter a telegraph here came... This got tangly. Okay. So there was basically a monopoly here on that. And with the exception of a few cool-headed individuals, everyone went mad about monopoly and preemption. So preemption is basically... I don't know how to describe it really. It's just buying it ahead of time. Laying a claim on it. So what ended up happening... So it just... See if I can get it here. The leading shareholder in the direct was this guy, Labouchere. He was the leading shareholder in the company. Okay, so the whole thing about what I'm about to read you is this was a financial fuck around. They hauled one over on everybody in terms of the stocks, and basically what happened, there was basically stock manipulation in the company that they had the government buy. They blew up, they inflated the value of this stock, had the government buy it, and then fucking sold everything at a profit? It was something okay, our telegraph company stock, known amongst financiers as dogs, so dogs means stock, I guess, stood at a high figure, probably above par. as it was a highly speculative stock. It probably rated above its real value. A shrewd operator discovered this point about preemption. He saw that if sufficient pressure or influence could be gained over the Newfoundland government to get them to decide that they would preempt or that they would not waive their right of preemption, the stock could be bared to a large extent. To accomplish this, and the great writer Lawrence Oliphant was sent to influence Governor Hill. The Duke of Buckingham wrote to the Premier on the subject. The other guys were sent out to the colony and spread the word around. They spread it around to fucking everybody, I think. The plant might be taken over by... Okay. They were sent to the colony. Lawyers' opinions were published that the Newfoundland Company's plant might be taken over by our government, as used to happen. We were to receive a handsome yearly revenue for the right to land on our shores. Even ministries of gospel were dragged from their sacred money was spent like water, and the last of the desired result was obtained. So people thought they were going to make a pile of money investing in the fucking telegraph thing or whatever, basically. And then what happened was, at the moment that it suited the stock jobbers, I guess the guys inflating this, the dickheads, the stock jobbers, a telegram was sent by our government that they would not waive their right to preemption. So what they wanted. What happened then was the stock declined by £9 a share, I guess, and a ring of speculators who had prepared this elaborate plan pocketed £400,000 sterling. How exactly that works, I'm not entirely sure, but put it this way, a bunch of guys who know a bunch of shit about stocks swindled everybody. Pretty nearly all the influential men in the colony were drawn into this clever, unscrupulous game, and the most respectable individuals among us were paid agents in working out this great financial dodge. So everybody was bought and sold who could be part of it, and fucked everybody over. I guess that is what you call insider trading, I believe, or... No, I don't know if that's insider trading. I think it's just fucking fraud or stock manipulation. Same white-collar crime. Okay. And so DW's note on that, so this whole preemption thing, that was what the stock inflation was based on. Preemption was the wildest, maddest, and most absurd proposal ever entertained by a government. To commit us with our small revenue to the purchase of a speculative concern like a cable and a telegraph, to risk our revenue for about 10 years on a thing that might be gold today and utterly worthless tomorrow, is bullshit. And if that rings familiar to anybody, it feels like maybe recently we spent a whole bunch of money on a project that could sink us. What's it called? You know what it's called. Thanks, Nalcor. Then the next paragraph just says, the humorous part, and I was like, I'm not even reading this. I was like, this is not going to be funny at all. Basically, he was just saying that the guys were really fucking cavalier about how they did it too. So, great. One of the most humorous things was the final result. The big telegraph monopolist, John Pender, of the Anglo-American gained a controlling influence over the direct cable company, and the balances due to the lawyers and clackers against the Anglo-American and their monopoly were all ultimately paid through the company's aid. I don't get it. I don't know why that's fucking funny. So I guess I would have to know a little bit more about the stock markets and how everything worked in the mid-1800s. Pardon me, take a drink. Anywhoozleby, the election returns of 1873 gave a small majority to the Bennett government. Well, that sucks because basically what happened there was Bennett got in, but he basically had like a minority rule. He was the only guy of his party on the island. So I don't know how that worked that he got in, but you know, it's one of those things where every time you try to pass something, it just gets fucking railroaded. So he dissolved the House. In the autumn of 1874, he dissolved the House, took up another general election, and then he actually won a good working majority. So that's just a note. Those things happen. Meow, 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 meow. The evidence was not taken on... Okay, yeah, moving on. Onwards and upwards. Sir Frederick's administration in 1874 was happily favored with prosperity and the largest fishery ever known in the colony, which is pretty sick. So good job, Sir Frederick. I don't have a picture of him immediately here. I don't think... I got Bennett here. Judge Bennett. Mr. J.O. Fraser. Nope. No son of Frederick. Anyhow. So that's good. We're in a good period. 1874, good time. 1875, a sum of money was voted for the preliminary survey of a railroad. So now we're going to talk about, so just now we were talking about lines, but those are telegraph lines, not railroad lines. Different lines. You got any? A sum of money was voted for the preliminary survey. It was completed during the summer of 1875. So the first boys took a good look around, said, hey, and he qualifies who these people were. They were capable. The actual construction of the railway clearly demonstrated that a line was feasible. There was no great engineering difficulties to overcome, and that a light railway might be constructed at a very reasonable rate per mile. We were on the imperial system at that point. Yeah, metric imperial. Right, so we could do it at a reasonable rate per mile. Mr. Belaire's previous survey established the same results. That's good, but this is just on the Avalon. This isn't what we know as the tracks now or anything. It's not the old Newfie Bullet Railway. This is from St. John's to Harbour Grace, which is a big hub over there at the time. I kind of wish there was still a train going from here to Harbour Grace. Man, that'd be sick. Just like coast through and go, yeah, that'd be fun. We should bring back trains. Okay, anyway, where the fuck was I? Sir Stephen Hill's term of office, having come to a close in 1876, he was succeeded by Sir John Glover. Stephen Hill, I guess Frederick was out in 74, Hill is in 75. They didn't even talk about him coming into power. Anyway, he's succeeded by Sir John H. Glover. The new administrator proved himself a most energetic ruler. Interesting way of describing the new governor. The following year, 1877, after protracted negotiations and repeated applications to the imperial government, commander so-and-so was appointed. Every time a judge changes position, this is DW's world. This is his fucking jam. I just want to know, we're not talking about beyond this. We haven't talked about the West Coast. We talked about fucking mining on the West Coast for a second. That didn't happen. I don't know what happened to the Turkish pirates from 200 fucking years ago. I just have a lot of unanswered questions, DW. For a book this thick, fucking fill me in. I digress. So there's a new cabinet in 1877. Sir Brian Robinson was compelled by age and increasing infirmities to retire from the bench. So this is a judge, not talking about the governor. I'm so fucking lost. Okay, one of the important subjects that required the attention of the new cabinet was the Washington Treaty that had been ratified between England and the United States on the 8th of May, 1871, which I guess meant a new deal between Britain, its colonies, and the United States, which is fine. It got a little confusing for me here for a second. It says, both in the Newfoundland cabinet and amongst outsiders, very influential people ridiculed the idea of our ever getting anything out of the Americans. So this whole thing, when the new cabinet was formed, their first thing was we got to get in on this fucking Washington Treaty, because we were a big part of negotiations and stuff like that before when the treaty was signed. So if the treaty's going to get ratified and Britain and the States are having a bit more commerce and stuff, we certainly need to be compensated for that. Now, what it gets into here is there's a bit of pricing and stuff, so or maybe I'll just go through it first and then land on that point at the end. So people in the Newfoundland cabinet, like I said, on outsiders, we were pessimistic at first. We didn't think we were going to get much of anything for it. But this guy, Sir William Whiteway Street. See, another street. I wish I had a map of all the St. John streets, and we could, every time we see a name, we can highlight it and see if we can. Anyway, Sir William Whiteway, the then Solicitor General, held strongly to his opinion that we were now entitled to and would receive, I like his style, will receive compensation. He accepted the position of British Council Newfoundland at the Commission. The injunction with the Honorable W.J.S. Donnelly. Oh my God, so many fucking names. Okay, so basically, the guys are just arguing. They wanted to go. They had to go. Talk this. It's just super legal negotiation. It's just treaty diplomacy stuff. And there's not a lot of detail about it, but it does say here the result of the Halifax Commission, which is where those treaty discussions were happening in Halifax. The result of the Halifax Commission is well known. Its great success was largely due to the tact and ability of the Secretary, Sir Henry G. Byrne. $5.5 million was accorded by the commissioners and to Canada, or to colonies, I guess. And out of the $5.5 million, we were awarded $1 million in the deal, which back then is quite a sum of money. And there's a point, and I was trying to, this whole time I'm reading, I'm like, but why do we deserve money? I couldn't find somewhere in here that said why we deserved compensation. So I didn't know if it was, I mean, I'm sure I could have fucking Googled it. it's 10 after 2 in the morning and I would like to get through this. But like, it, I don't know if it comes down to like trade tariffs and money that they were buying it for under the old rules versus the new ones. So if the rules are gonna change, maybe all the inventory that they had of ours there would have to go at a different rate, which would make us entitled to a bunch of money. Again, not entirely sure. Don't entirely fucking care. And then I'm going to move on. A number of gentlemen in the council and assembly took part in the discussion when the award was considered, the award of our $1 million. I have given portions, I as in DW, have given portions of the speeches of General W.A. Harvey, Sir Ambrose Shea, and Sir William Whiteway as they throw light on the subject. They bring out, in a very distinct and emphatic way, the immense value of our fisheries, the greatest cod fishery in the world, I believe that, and the magnitude of the interest at stake before the commission. So there's 2 pages of like what he goes on about that I'm not getting into it. But there was a point here is it Parsons? Harvey. So he says in his writing, he goes, by reference to the terms of the Washington Treaty, it will be seen that they do not specify what the remuneration, that's a word when you say it a couple times, you don't have confidence in yourself, you know how to say it anymore. Remuneration, if any were awarded, was to be paid for. So he was like, what are we being paid for here? The United States, the award, they do not say, for instance, that if the fishery privileges granted are 10 times more valuable than those given to us on the coast of the United States, the award should be positioned to that. He's just saying, fucking specify, but it's not specific at all. So, that's interesting. Ambrose Shea chimed in on it. W.V. Whiteway, the Attorney General, chimed in on it. So there's some points there. Either way, we got $1 million, and we're not entirely sure why, or how, or for what reason. Okay, anyway, so we move on to Sir Frederick Carter is a fella, having taken his seat upon the bench first as assistant judge in 1880, as Chief Justice, in succession to Sir Hugh Hoyles, who had been compelled with retiring health. The conduct of affairs devolved on Sir William Whiteway. He showed himself most progressive in his ideas. In 1888, he passed the first, so that is a big lead up to me saying, Sir Frederick Carter passed the first bill that gave us to build a light railway from St. John's to Halls Bay, which I assume is by Harbour Grace somewhere. In the autumn of 1880, the survey was completed from St. John's to Harbour Grace. I nailed it. Tenders were received from various capitalists to construct the line. Of course they were. The Premier moved a resolution to refer the consideration of various proposals to a joint committee of both houses. On the recommendation of this committee, a provisional contract was made and a charter afterwards granted to the Newfoundland Railway Company. The Newfoundland Railway Company. Here we go. The principal points in the contract provided that the railway were to build a substantial, reliable, and efficient railroad of 3 feet 6 inches in gauge, or in width, pardon me, COVID, subject to the removal of, railroad of 3 feet 6 inches in gauge, subject to the approval of a government engineer, as they should be. They were to continually operate and maintain the same, and to complete the whole line to Halls Bay within 5 years. So the government was to pay an annual subsidy of $180,000 for the number of 35 years, subsidy attached, blah, 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 blah. On the 9th of August, 1881, the railway was actually commenced. Enough talking, let's break fucking ground. And at the close of the working season, 20 miles were graded. So we got 20 miles done, graded in the first season, and 10 miles of that was metalled, or laid, I assume. During the ensuing winter, hundreds of men were employed north and south cutting sleepers. Not sure what that means. Oh, probably the wood for the tracks. Sleepers. Anyway, the money thus spent in construction and in purchase of the right-of-way was found most beneficial. It came on the whole community like a gentle rain from heaven. Its refreshing dews descended alike on the friends and opponents of the new enterprise. Its rills trickled into everyone's pocket. Merchant, trader, small shopkeeper, all alike experienced the good results of this large outflow of money to the railway labourers. They paid the labourers well. The labourers, in turn, went and spent all their money at all the local shit that they could. Which, yeah, trickle up fucking economics. See, you see how it just sticks in my craw a little bit. Might have another beer about it. While we're here. Hey, gang. Newfoundland's finest. Fun fact about Black Horse, for those who don't know at home, the horse has a little... you can't really see it. Right here, there's a little Newfoundland and Labrador right by his arse. You can see Newfoundland on bottom, Labrador on top. Fun facts for history fans, drunks alike. So we've built the first season, laid 20 miles. We got 10 of it done. Everyone is getting employed. Everyone has got money, man. We're getting a sick railway. We got steamships. We got telegraphs. That was a bit of a boondoggle, but so that's pretty good. I think, that's pretty much it for today's, man, we got, I felt like that went quick. I kind of like this reading out of the book notesy way of taking things. Just to recap, the value of the Newfoundland shore fishery, in terms of our negotiations with the Washington ratification or whatever the fuck, the Halifax Accord or whatever. We had the Halifax Commission, sorry. The Anglo-American preemption, which was the telegraph line. We had mining operations going on. We had 63 million Americans. Couple fun things this episode. I feel like I owe you more, but I fucking don't, and I'm really not gonna do any more than I have to. So I suppose on that note, my friends, we will conclude episode 29 of Liam Small, Abridges, A History of Newfoundland by D.W. Prowse, 15 to 20 pages at a time, every single day, or not, whatever I want to do, every other day until the bars reopen, which isn't going to happen. Big news, lots on the go, guys. There's all kinds of stuff in the news right now, stuff that just feels like it's going to be really easy to take your eyes off the prize in the next little bit. I know, who the fuck am I to be saying anything to anybody, but there's going to be some stuff, that's going to come up. Stuff always comes up, but, we need to stick together, boys. As Canadians, as people, people on planet Earth are fucking, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, guys, I hope none of you are getting sick. Numbers are still down. That's good. Much love to all of you. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay sane, stay hydrated. And, I'll talk to you tomorrow.